Okay, so you're now coming on after these two films that John Lasseter has directed. Yes, he's executive producer, and yes, he's very involved, but he chose you to direct and you to produce. So, what was that legacy weight like?
There's no wait. What are you talking about?
I volunteered and it was 6 years ago. I'm like, what was I thinking? 6 years. This is where we're at.
Well, was it something he said, I want you to come up with a project, or did?
So I was working on working on it as head of story and development. We had the craftings of the early part of what this became, which was the mentorship story, right? That was always there at the present. That was the thing that was most interesting to us. Really moving to me, it's very personal. When I got tapped on the shoulder, Darren, one day at work and said, John Lasseter wants to see you right now. So, so I walked to his office. That could be good or bad, you know. I don't. John said, I want you to direct this movie. I think I screamed inside my head for
Little spit up.
you know, I had never directed anything before, so I don't know how to direct a movie. I was a story artist, so you know, storytelling is my background, but there's a lot more to putting that on the screen. There's a lot of more things to come through, but I had the support of the studio and I had support of John. Okay. So it was never a question, do I want to? It was we'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to direct the movie, but I wanted to tell the story.
What were the biggest challenges that you had jumping into the director's chair and you jumping in the producer's chair?
I had to learn communication because as a story artist, you kind of work in a very small group, usually by yourself in an office. You know, working up the scene. You know, you draw it. We draw everything many, many, many times. You know, before we ever get this far, just to figure out the story. It's the leadership of that. You know, that was new to me. I had to learn how to communicate and how to do it efficiently, so that I can inspire, the best work out of everybody.
For me, probably the biggest challenge was they came to us and said, we've got good news and bad news. The good news is we love your movie. The bad news is we're taking a year out of your schedule. And so all of a sudden we went to becoming Summer of 17. And that was a little daunting. We had a team of 30, and in 2 weeks we had 150. The first week we were there, we were announced on a Tuesday, and on Thursday we had a Lego meeting where they said, well, just give us all your model packets of your characters. And we're like, we don't have any model packets. We don't have any characters. We don't have an art department. So, you know, that was pretty daunting.
Had you finished the script, or was there...
we finished the script
We're never
all
finished
the time. We're never finished the script.
It's still not done.
Yeah, we're conforming it now.
Yeah, we're never finished with it. We will change things. Anything we can do to make the movie better, we will do it up until we physically can't do it anymore. We were done with the end race sequence. It was animated. It wasn't lit yet. You know, we weren't that far down, but picture was locked. Animation was done on it. Randy was in the middle of writing the score.
Actors were gone.
And so Mike Rich, a writer who hadn't been on the film for a year, we sent him a copy just so he could see what we did. Because like I said, he wasn't on it for a year. Things are going to change. And he had a note for us, and it's in that situation where it's like, oh, it's a little late for a note, but he's a smart guy, and so he gave us a note that we were really missing a moment where Cruz and McQueen really thank each other for what they've done for each other, after the race, and he was right. That was a wonderful note. So we did it without dialogue, which to me is my favorite. Now it's my favorite moment in the movie. But we had to stop, throw it back in animation. We got to shoot some more shots. We got to figure this out. Call Randy on the phone, expect a new picture change. We haven't locked it yet, but there's going to be a moment here, and it's actually really important. So everything you're doing with the score actually needs to build to that moment. And he knocked it out.
What were some of the challenges in trying to bring the film up to date and yet at the same time have it be still the Cars world that we're used to?
Mud. Mud was really hard. 10 years ago, we couldn't have done mud. Gloppy mud, dry mud, caked mud.
You've got water licked now, and so now it's mud.
Water and smoke and fire. We got all that licked. Now it's mud.
Wow.
But
there's still variations on all those things. Everything had to come back from scratch again. So all the characters, all the sets, we had to remake. The technology has changed, and we're going to make it look better because we can. We can do things we couldn't do then. We would love to have had it look like that, 10, 11 years ago. But so We wanted it to look as good as we possibly could because we didn't want it to look aged. We didn't want this movie to look like it came out in 2006. So we wanted it to be the world you remember, but through a better pair of glasses. And so all the modeling, everything is shaders, everything about it was kicked up a notch. And the renderer that we have now is what's responsible for the level of realism we can achieve. And with this movie, we wanted to lean into realism as much as possible because we want you to be able to smell the air. We want you to feel the dust. We want the atmosphere to, feel humidity. Just anything we can do to have the audience feel like they're actually in that set. And also, because the realism is kicked up, we were looking at our models. We had to stiffen things up. Or our first animation was coming back in the, animators they love to get really crazy and bounce these things around, but they're, the way we're rendering now, they look even more like real cars. And that, 4,000 pounds needs to look like it's 4,000 pounds. So we had to tweak our animation style and kind of find a whole new approach that was inspired by, what had been done earlier, but kind of our own thing, because this is our own thing.
You say you were originally inspired by the mentorship story. Where did that emanate from, and why was that so important to you?
I think there's probably two sides to that. There's a plot and then there's emotion. Plot-wise, we were looking at where McQueen is now as a racer. He's no longer the hotshot racer. So where would be in his career? And we talked a lot with Jeff Gordon, and Jeff Gordon had told us he was getting close to the time to retirement, and he told us the thing that he feared the most, he would never be good at anything else ever again. So that's kind of where we were looking around plot-wise. That's just the surface level, right? The emotion is the thing we're always really chasing. And I had this experience with my daughters. I wanted to show them that there's no different than their little crayon drawings that they do in school, and like a real finished, nice painted illustration, professionally done. That it's still a person holding a stick. The only difference is the professional person spent more time on it and had done more of them in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. So I have an illustration background, and so I was gonna just give them a little lesson. I set up one of my daughter's American Girl dolls, and I'm gonna do a painting demonstration. I'm gonna paint its portrait, and I draw it out, and like, see, first you draw it out, just get the rough shapes, and you look at the light, and you try to blah blah blah. They're too young to care. And 20 minutes later, they just walked away. They're bored and they're going to play. But I'm going to stick to this. So I'm going to show them the final product. I think I probably spent 3 hours on it. And then I showed it to them when I was done. And they just said, cool. And then they ran off. That's it. So I kind of thought, I just spent a Saturday painting an American Girl doll. I could have made other choices. But a week later, I went in Lucia, she's my older daughter, she's 11 now, this was several years ago. I went into her room, and she had these drawings in her room where she set up her stuffed animals, and she was drawing their portrait. And it was like if you've ever had that moment where you're so surprised, like a rush of hot, wind goes through your body. And I realized that American Girl painting was probably one of the most important pieces of artwork I would have ever made in my life. And watching her do that and feeling like I played a role in affecting her on. And actually it just boils down to the idea that watching your kids go off and find success is actually more important than me or a parent or a mentor finding their own success. And that is, we had that early on. I had this experience early on, and that's kind of the thing with the movie we've been chasing, the long game of how I see McQueen's arc in this movie.
Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.